President actually getting in his own way. The Wall Street Journal saying as much, and what was a seminal piece, an editorial today, that makes the case that the president is hurting things for himself. To Intelligence Report host, my friend Trish Regan, I think there's some truth to that. I think that he is fine to tweet, and he's fine to criticize those who criticize him for tweeting because he is president. But now it's coming from fellow Republicans who are saying, could you just tweet on message at least? Right?
You know, one of the problems here is, look, he's a great entrepreneur. You cannot take any of that away from him. He's been a great businessman in his own right, and this is partly why America has been so excited by him. His authenticity as well is a big contributor to the excitement for the base. The problem now is, you know, unlike a CEO, say, who has to answer to shareholders and has to answer to a board of directors, Donald Trump created a very successful private company. And you often see this, these great entrepreneurs with big ideas, but they don't have to take it forward into the public space. They're able to surround themselves with a lot of people that do a good job implementing their ideas.
But not challenging their ideas.
Not challenging.
One of the things that stuck in my mind, Trish, I want to get your reaction from the Journal, is that people of talent and integrity won't work for a boss who undermines them in public without thinking about the consequences. Yeah. And whatever happened to the buck stops here, referring to this, you know, tweet he went on to criticize the Justice Department for watering down the original travel ban in favor of one that was more politically correct. He signed off on that. He knew he had to do that, and he could kill his chances in the Supreme Court getting that overturned as a result of those tweets.
You got to be consistent. And people need to know that they can rely on you for that consistency. I mean, I'm just hearing from a lot of sources that are supportive of him or have been supportive of him that they are frustrated by that because they feel like on the one hand, they're out there breaking their neck, and then on the other hand, they don't necessarily know that they're going to have that support. But I get back to this idea of, you know, if you run a business and you got to bring the San Francisco office together and the London office together and the Dallas office together, get consensus, everybody on board, and have a message and stick to it. That's very different than, you know, creating your own thing. So I think he's got a learning curve here that he's really got to step up to the plate.
But it's a people curve, too, right? I'm wondering, like, you know, and it's very easy. You know, he's quite right to point out that, look, all these doubters and all, I'm here, and they're not. They didn't think I had a chance. They're not. But obviously, they're not saying no to tweets, just tweets that are on the message, because every time you tweet, Mr. President, about Russia or about Comey or about these other things that have nothing to do with something that's very popular, your agenda, for example, you get distracted, you take the argument away, you give it to your critics, and we lose. That's what they're saying.
Don't let the media win this narrative. You got to get control of it, and that means being consistent, being on message. As for the agenda, think of how successful he was over in Saudi Arabia. Think about the world tour, and he was very much, Neil, on message throughout. There was not a ton of Twitter that was distracting him and, frankly, distracting the media from the issues at hand. So he's got to get back to that. Yeah. When he does that, he's at his best.
Yeah, I don't know if he can, but stay there, Tricia. The London mayor right now is calling for President Trump's state visit to be canceled. Of course, they've been having a nasty tit-for-tat here. Actually, the London mayor hasn't responded very much, but I want to bring into all of this former top advisor to David Cameron, Next Revolution host. Here's the thing that I don't like about Steve Hilton. His first time at the gate doing a show here. It's a hit, which I personally resent. So, Steve, very good to have you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for giving me the chance.
Yeah, that's meant to be a compliment, I guess.
There you are. Thank you.
But really, very good show. Congratulations. But Steve, I'm worried about you know, you talk about messaging, you talk about keeping that populist figure up, but it's got to be focused, right? I mean, judging from the Wall Street Journal, judging from some of these other publications, Republicans are getting frustrated, as Trish and I were discussing, that he's getting sidetracked and too easily doing his enemy's bidding. What do you make of that?
Look, I think there's a lot of truth to that opinion piece, and I think that there's a lot that we can do to, if you like, make the tweeting directed in a positive way. I've always been a fan of the tweeting. I like the fact that Donald Trump has always communicated directly to people in a clear way without the usual kind of blah, blah, blah that people are sick of from politics. So I think it's a plus, but it needs to be targeted in a better way. But that is a completely different issue from the real substance of why nothing's happening in terms of the big legislative changes that we need. The reason healthcare is not going anywhere and not happening is not because of the president tweeting, is because the Republicans who control Congress can't agree on what healthcare reform should look like. The reason tax reform isn't going anywhere is the same, that Paul Ryan and his team can't put together a plan that commands support from the Republicans. It's the same with all these things. In the end, it's no good blaming the president for his tweeting to try and cover up the failure of the Republicans to put their agenda together.